Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here on this bright and early Wednesday morning. It's nice to have some pretty sunshine outside, and my peaches are blooming, and my strawberries are growing, and I need to be in Musella, but I'm glad I'm here too. So doing the people's business this morning. So, but anyway, thank all y'all for being here. I'll ask floor leader Ricky if he would open us up with a prayer on number four.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, God, we love you. Thank you for this day, God, but especially thank you for loving us. God, be with us this morning as we convene to make decisions on behalf of the people of Georgia. And God, just guide us and direct us in all that we do. And more importantly, God, help us to put all of our trust and faith in you and to follow you first and help to lead this state. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Well, thank you very much. We a couple of days after crossover, after all those important House bills got through, and on our agenda this morning, it looks like we got a Senate bill, and I hope we'll all look real closely at these Senate bills coming over here. Especially looks like we got one from a freshman senator down in the floor leader's office. Bless you for being down with Senator Goodman and Senator Riccio, but they do know a little bit about farming, Senator Dixon. So maybe, and this is a Consumer Affairs Committee as well as Ag. So we're very diverse here on this committee. So thank you for being here. If you want to come to the podium, Mike, and tell us a little bit about SB 49. And I think you've got a little familiarity with this sort of work. Are you in the real estate business?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm more of the horizontal portion of it, mainly acquisitions and development.
But you don't farm.
No, sir. I do have some pepper plants every year and grow a few tomatoes, but it's along the lines of maybe 6 or 8 plants. So that's my extent of farming experience. So I'm sure I can learn quite a bit from y'all.
Well, good. I'm sure Senator Goodman can fill you in when you need to know some of that. So anyway, I'm sorry this morning. Glad you're here. Mike's yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I appreciate y'all hearing me this morning. Here to bring Senate Bill 49 with the committee substitute. It has to do with third-party private providers dealing with building inspection and plan review. And it simply what it does, it codifies part of an executive order from the governor back in March. It was March 20th, dealing with the pandemic. But what it simply does is it allows contractors or builders to be able to hire a third party in regards to building inspection and plan review. Currently, the statutory time frame is 2 days on building inspections is when a municipality would have to perform that service, and then plan review they have up to 30 days. And this bill would allow builders and contractors, like I said, to go ahead and hire a third party to perform those services. And where the need comes in, of course, with COVID, dealing with staffing issues, where they've got people that were out or they were running on, 50% capacity, trying not to have departments, if somebody did catch COVID, they wouldn't run rampant through their department. The other issue is dealing with some smaller municipalities, which I've dealt with that in my personal business, that don't have the staff or they're having to use outside folks, being able to perform those services, within that time frame. And this would allow builders and contractors to go ahead and hire that third party and perform those services. But within that, they still would owe the county 50% of their fee, call it a convenience fee, because even when the work's done, there's still administrative duties that would have to be done internally in regards to plan review and processing. But it also protects the municipalities if a builder or contractor decides to kind of jump out in front of it when the county or city could perform the service. And if the city can provide information that they could have performed that service during the statutory time frame, then the municipality could charge an additional fee up to the full amount of what the service would have cost. And like I said, in my business currently, on the residential side, the market's very strong, dealing with COVID and staffing issues. This would help both sides, I believe. Then we had a committee substitute, a couple points with it. And it was brought to us by the Home Builders Association of Georgia. And then we were also given a letter of support with the language in the substitute from the Building Officials Associations of Georgia. And it's simply just kind of more defined, a qualified inspector, where you couldn't, hire an inspector. They would have to have their appropriate license, or certificate to perform that service. You couldn't, and I'm just talking out loud. You couldn't hire, somebody, an electric, contractor or electric inspector rather, to perform, inspections on a foundation. So it kind of tightens up that language a bit. But with that, would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Sandy. We do have a couple of questions. And also I failed to point out that we do have some other members online this morning. Chairman Darlene Taylor is online, Representative Marvin Lim, Regina Lewis Ward also is online, and Representative Rebecca Mitchell. So thank you all, members of the committee, for being present this morning online. So I'll take a couple of questions here. Chairman Perkle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator, a couple of things, and I don't know an awful lot about this bill, but you said a couple of things in your presentation that caused me to pause just a second. The first of which, so there's going to be two questions, but the first is, you indicate there's 2 days. There's a 2-day time period right now for, I'm assuming, for municipalities to inspect the buildings. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And with your legislation, we're thinking that we can free up some time and allow private inspectors, which are fully qualified people, to do the inspections. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Am I also correct in taking one of the things I thought you said, which seemed rather out of place, that the municipality can charge up to 50% of the fee that I get to inspect your building?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Wow. That's a pretty good game, wouldn't it be?
Yeah.
So what would entitle a municipality to a 50% tax of my labor and expertise? Does that not seem a little high? I mean, it does to me. That's the only thing. I don't understand. I don't understand how the city can do that. I mean, it's a great racket. I'd love to be able to do that. Sam, I want 50% of what you sell in your cabbage. But okay, well, never mind. It just seems to be a little high. And what is the reason? I know you said something about administrative.
Yeah, no,
you
that's
still
a
have
great
some administrative things, but if I'm providing a professional assessment of the work on a property, I don't understand how, when I turn the paperwork in, I hand them a check for 50% of what I'm due.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a great question. And so the fee would be, it wouldn't come out of like the inspectors, the whatever the home builder, we'll just say home builder to simplify it, what the home builder would end up having to pay that additional fee. It wouldn't come from the inspector side or the plan review side. And there is administrative work that would still have to be done. I mean, once it's submitted, there would still be, a process of reviewing it, and then other administrative, filings and things like that would have to be done. And it would be the choice of the the home builder to go that alternate route. They're not being forced to do that. They would know that fee would would be charged, up front. And in my personal business, like I said, dealing, we're blessed right now. I mean, I got hit square in the head, with the Great Recession. But fortunately, through this trying time that we're going through with the pandemic, we've been blessed, and sales, dropped off for about 30 days. But, the market is so strong for us right now, that fee to continue to move product along and get homes built would be something that we would welcome. It wouldn't be an issue.
Can I have one more follow-up? Would you allow me to do that? So one additional follow-up. So one of the reasons that we use that we encourage private inspections, the use of private contractors for businesses, for state work. One of the reasons that we hire a private person is in order to, you save a little money. Private enterprise, get the private, capital markets involved. And that's one of the reasons that, down interstate, we don't do a lot of the mowing of the right of ways that we used to do, because we found out that we could do it cheaper if we contracted with a private person. But Department of Transportation don't ding the state of Georgia for what they were charging. We get the savings. It just appears to me, and maybe I'm very short-sighted and probably am. I didn't see the line. I was just
He's
referencing
going
his.
off of my statement, but it is. But it
77. It's line 77, Mr. Representative.
and simply, yeah, I mean, I
It
understand
just
talking
seems
about
like some of the goodie that we get, and hey, I shouldn't say, the goodie that we get from using private inspectors, which I'm a fan of, obviously. It just seems like some of the goodie we're leaving on the table, because it's still going to cost the same, and so maybe we get more inspections done quicker, which is what I think you're wanting to do. I would just worry about the fees, but that's all. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Perkle. Next, we got Floor Leader LaRicchia. Got a question.
Well, this is going to be fun, because I'll get to go at you, and then I'm going to finish up with Representative or Chairman Perkle. But no, to my friend, this is when we get careful, because Senate bills start to come over here, and the charge of this committee is to make sure that we try to make these bills better. And I know that you'll be able to do that, because your office is between mine and Senator Russ Goodman's, and we have been able to influence you with a tremendous amount of wisdom over the last couple of weeks.
Yes, sir. I would agree with that.
But one of the things I wanted to kind of test you on is it talks about the definition of a qualified inspector, and it references a code section that I was wondering if you could clear up. It says qualified inspector as such term is defined in code section 8-2-26.1. Do you have that in front of you? Can you tell us what 8-2-26.1 calls a qualified inspector? So I'll save us some time and say that you probably don't have that in front of you, but
I actually do, if you want me to read it.
And so,
but essentially what it, as far as a qualified inspector, whatever inspection or review that they're having to perform, they've got to have that license or that designation to perform that inspection or review.
how would they prove, I guess, is there some that they have to submit with that inspection, or is there a stamp? Is there something on there that recognizes them as professional? That's the only little bit of concern I had. You know, we're certainly working together to try to get this done for the governor, but on that line 77, where if you'll go back to line 75, it says if, that's a word that a lot of people overlook in legislation is if the applicant elects to utilize the services. which is the same thing as saying may. You don't have to utilize these services. And I know that I've been preached to a number of times by Chairman Perkle about unfunded mandates. And so you don't have to utilize this service, but if you do use the service of a private professional provider, then we're actually going to require them to reduce the fee. So number one, you don't have to use them. And number two, if you do, this committee is going to say, or this legislature is going to say, you can't charge full price. And so that should be helpful to his concern about, but no, I just want to have some fun with you. Thank you for this, Bill.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very, very clear. Thank you for pointing that out. Are there any other questions to Senator Dixon? Representative Dukes, number 3.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One question that I have, I am looking at it because so much of it is current law. The 50% was a part of the current law, if I'm not.
It actually, the executive order, yes, sir.
Okay.
But there is a law in place where it was actually 100%. You had to pay the full fee, so we are reducing that in this legislation. But the executive order had the 50%. Yes, sir. It mirrors that
The-
current executive order.
Thank you. Would the gentleman further yield?
Yes, sir.
What particular structures, I know you're a home builder,
Mhm.
and I do home building and commercial work also, but does this also include commercial work such
Yes, sir.
as?
It would.
So basically, the intent of this legislation is that I can see where that it is needed, and I'm in supportive of the measure, but basically, I'm trying to understand our exact flow. So we pick up the permit. There is a plan review. Now we don't necessarily have to wait for the municipality to do the plan review. We can have that done by an independent contractor,
Yes, sir.
professional. And all of the inspections can be handled by independent contractors.
Yes, sir.
And with the municipality providing the certificate of occupancy after all of these inspections have been done.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Seeing no other question, Representative Camp, what number?
21.
Okay.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Let's see if you'll yield for just a moment. I'd like to ask a question. Is this bill, it doesn't require anyone to use an outside vendor, correct?
That's correct.
And is it true this bill was put in place because there were backlogs and there just weren't enough building inspectors to get everything done? And this was a mechanism to expedite builders who were willing to pay additional fees? Because there's nothing stopping the contractor from doing an upcharge for the 50% they're going to have to pay back to the county municipality, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, it's a choice. They can either they can go through the municipality. There's nothing forcing them to use the third party. It would be up to the contractor or builders discretion whether they used them. Whether there's staffing issues or if it's dealing with staffing issues with COVID or whatever the issue is.
Okay, but there's nothing stopping the third party non-governmental inspector from determining their own fee
No, ma'am.
systems?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No, it states nothing to that effect.
All right. So if, let's say a building inspection costs $200, they're going to have to pay 50% to the municipality. They have the ability to charge $300, and then it's a fair market. The builder can make their determination if they'd rather wait on the municipality or hire that third party contractor.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. We also have one other question from online. Representative Mitchell, can you hear us? And love for you to ask a question.
Yes, I can hear you great. Hopefully you can hear me as well. Thank you, Senator Dixon. I have a question because this is extremely far outside my field of expertise. the inspectors that are currently employed at the muni level to do these inspections are hired on a contract basis, or they're a fixed cost to the muni? And if they're a fixed cost to the muni, is it expected that this will have a large fiscal impact in municipalities who have paid for these the inspectors to be supported at the municipality level, and now that potential fee is much less coming into the municipality?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It would be both. You have typically your larger municipalities, they have staff that work directly for the municipality. And then you have other municipalities, typically they're smaller, not always, will contract with third party to do their inspections. And I don't believe that it would affect as far as revenue coming in, because if the municipality is able to perform that work and they have, appropriate staff to perform those inspections or the plan review process, they can be made whole still. If the builder, we'll just use the builder for say, decides, elects to go with a third party, they can still charge up to that full amount by proving that they were able to perform that service.
Okay, thank you. We'll take this under consideration committee. Thank you for being here. Good bill, and we've got plenty of time, I think, to move this bill when at the proper time. So we'll let you know. We'll probably I know we'll have another meeting next week and be in position to try to move this bill.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Next, HB 664, is Representative Maynor here? Yes. Well, good morning. Thank you very much. The last time I think we saw you, it was HB 138 at the well.
Yes, yes. Thank you for
Good job.
everyone that voted. Thank you.
You're also new.
I am.
Have you ever been to this committee before?
I haven't, but I've been in this room plenty of times with my committee.
Well, welcome to Agriculture and Consumer Affairs Committee.
Thank you.
Not many, I think I was here a couple of years before I had a bill at the well, and on crossover day, that was pretty good. So anyway, this bill also deals with some housing and real estate. So go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. So in a nutshell, this bill, we still do need to work on it. And I'm working with DCA, the Contractors of Georgia, and also the Home Builders of Georgia. It came to me because, and the other representatives that are on this bill are mainly in the Savannah port because it deals with shipping containers. So right now there is an overload of excessive shipping containers at the port. And so the question is, what do we do with all of these excessive shipping containers? Now in the city, we have an issue with affordable housing. And so right now, the last construction code that was made with DCA was tiny houses. So this is going to be a new construction code for shipping containers. And what it just says, I got information from our neighboring states, Tennessee, North Carolina, Alabama, South Carolina, and Florida. And also we use the International Builders Code, and we will just be able to now use shipping containers to build construction for homes and also commercial properties. That is it in a nutshell.
Well, good. I own 2 or 3 of those shipping containers. We use them for storage on our farm. They're very, very handy. They can be very, very hot in the summertime
Yes.
inside in our hot Georgia weather, but they are very well constructed and very good. We do have a question from Chairman Corbett.
Thank you, Chairman Dickey. Thank you, Representative Maynor, for bringing the bill. You spoke about the IBC. Have they already adopted in their codes that it's okay to build houses, homes out of the shipping containers?
Yes. This is the last bill that the last code that they actually adopted.
And it takes normally 3 to 5 years in for the DCA to adopt the International Building Code. Is that
In some
timeline?
cases, but if we work with them now, then we're ahead of the curve.
ahead of the curve? Yeah. And have you looked at what, one more further question?
Absolutely.
Have you looked at what Florida is doing? I know just across, I live right on the Florida line, and there's a farming operation down there that actually has a office building built out of these shipping containers. And it's amazing what they can do with these things. Anybody want to come down and take a tour, I'll be glad to organize that. But and just interested to know if you look to see what Florida's doing.
Yes, so I actually gave legislative counsel the codes from Florida. So all of our neighbors are actually using shipping containers already to some degree. And even in some local municipalities in Georgia, they're using it. But I did use Florida, North Carolina, Alabama, and several other neighboring states, their codes.
Thank you.
Chairman Corbett, I see your lovely wife in the audience. Maybe you got some ideas for a new home for her, a little downsize, and she's over there shaking her head.
I was going to say, make a pretty good doghouse. That's where I stay most of the time.
Florida LaRicchia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Representative Maynor. I knew when we met the first time you were going to be special, and appreciate you bringing this. I'll tell you a quick story. I have a company in my district that is Titan Modular. And these modular companies build a lot of commercial office buildings for construction sites.
Yes.
And I won't mention any names, but one of their owners reached out to me last year and asked me to look at this. And so, not thinking this far ahead, he basically said, I'll buy every empty container they've got if he can utilize them to construct particularly modular office, temporary office buildings in modular construction. Now, probably a lot more thought goes into it for our residents for whatever reason, but no, I'm excited about this. This is going to give me an opportunity to call him today and say, hey, there is a conversation being had about utilizing some of these, because the frame, the structure, if you can pull that thing down the highway 70 miles an hour, you can use it for a modular office building. And so thank you so much for bringing it. But I have had some calls asking us to look at this to be able to utilize those containers. Thank you so much.
Thank you. If I could also just say, the Georgia Port Authority, Representative Mallow has been instrumental, and also Chairman Stevens, in communications with this Port Authority. And one of the things that they did want me to mention in this committee hearing is, at the port, they are actually stacking the containers on top of each other. And so the strength of the containers is significant and would be much more stable than an actual frame of a home.
Well, thank you very much for bringing this, Bill. I had a conversation last night with Lee Lemke about exports and the ports being congested with too many containers and not being able to maneuver down there. So I do realize there's lots of issues on all sides of that. So thank you. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on our agenda, I wanted to bring to the attention of our committee. I know many of you have been on this committee as long as I have, and a few years ago, we had quite an in-depth discussion in this committee on the marketing of raw milk. And so that issue has come back again a little bit, and wanted to take another look at it and bring our new members up to speed with the issues where we are in Georgia with marketing raw milk or not marketing raw milk. And so I've asked a couple of people this morning to come speak to it just for information purposes to our committee, and then maybe we can sort of decide on direction this committee might want to go to look at it. So first, I want to ask Farrah Newberry with the Georgia Milk Producers to come. Thank you for being here this morning. And if you'd come to the podium, Mike, and tell us a little bit about your organization. I think everyone has a couple of handouts
Yes.
from Georgia Milk Producers, and so welcome.
All right. Well, thank you, Chairman Dickey and committee members. I'm happy to come talk about the dairy industry. My name's Farrah Newberry. I'm the executive director for Georgia Milk Producers. I have been in this role for 21 years now. So I have seen a lot of discussion go on through the years about raw milk and the sale of it in Georgia. A little bit about our industry. When I started back in February of 2000, we had 525 dairy farms. This week, we have now 114 dairy farms left in the state of Georgia. So we've seen a decline of about 78% of our industry. And there are many factors that contribute to this loss, unfortunately. One of those, of course, is urban growth in the North Georgia area. We had a lot of small dairy farms in North Georgia and the mountains, but with the growth of our towns, those families have gone out of business. And done some agritourism stuff, but most of them have gone out of business. Also, we only make fluid milk in Georgia. We do not have a cheese plant here. We do not have ice cream plants. We have 2 processing plants here, and they are for Kroger and Publix. So we do not have a lot of opportunities to market different products. So that's kind of forced us out of business because people just aren't drinking as much milk as they were back in the 70s and 80s when there were only a few options and people sat down at the table, ate with their families and had a glass of milk. We just don't do that anymore. And cereals also really dropped off because people aren't eating breakfast at home. So we saw our product demand drop. Also, we've of course have competition with alternative milks, but our biggest competitor is bottled water. So there are just so many options out there now that we are trying to fight back for that share of our market, but it's been a challenge. Also, it's just extremely expensive to produce milk in the Southeast. It gets really hot here, very humid. The cows just don't like the humidity. So our farmers invest a lot in cow comfort. And they have fans and barns to keep those cows comfortable. A comfortable cow makes more milk. So that's very important to us. Also, we also invest in different standards, quality standards to ensure that our milk is really fresh and also has a higher quality so that it'll stay on the shelf longer and also taste better. So over the past about 10 years, our processors have really demanded a lot from our producers. They want to see clean milk, higher quality milk. The federal standard, and one way we measure this is through some cell counts. And I have a kind of an explanation of this in the handout to you guys. But that is kind of the standard for marking quality in milk. The federal number is 750,000 cells per milliliter for this max cell count. Really, in Georgia, we have been forced to lower that all the way down from the demands of our processors to 250,000 cells per milliliter. So we have really worked hard to clean up our milk, make sure that we're doing proper milking procedures. Our milk is tested 4 times before it reaches the consumer. So we are doing our part to provide a very safe product to consumers. So when I first started on the board and my producers on my board, we have 16 dairy farmers that represent the industry on our board. They were pretty strong against the sale of raw milk in Georgia because of safety concerns and the quality of the milk. And we were worried that, of course, if someone was going to get sick, it would really put a black eye on the industry as a whole. But with the loss of our farms, really our smaller dairy farms, and also the pandemic really brought out the need for being able to supply local markets, that some of our smaller guys could have had the opportunity to sell raw milk in their communities. So we had a very long discussion about it at our board meeting, the frank discussion. We are worried that right now you're allowed to sell pet milk, raw milk in Georgia as pet milk. we are worried that those producers that are, or our consumers that are producing that raw milk, it is not tested. There are no precautions on those farms, that is going to make someone sick. That if our farmers had the opportunity, and if they took on the liability of selling the raw milk and be insured, that at least that raw milk that's sold to those in their communities has been tested and is held to a higher standard. So that's where we came to the point in May to vote that we'd like to look into the possibility of legalizing raw milk sales in Georgia. We would like to see high standards for those farms that do produce that, have them tested just like we are, have the way it's bottled and the way it's stored would be the same as what we do. I have a producer that bottles his own milk and he sells it at stores, and it's pasteurized, of course, but he goes to a farmer's market close by, and there's some pet milk products there. They are not refrigerated when they are delivered. They're bringing them out of the back of a van, and he's getting twice the amount for that gallon of jug than our producers are. So our producers get about $2.99 to $3.99 a gallon. Pet milk is selling in Georgia around $8 to $12 a gallon. So there's a huge difference there. I think we have valid concerns on how we want to keep our Georgia consumers safe that do consume that. We want to lean on the Department of Ag to help us inspect those farms and to, develop the regulations for that and put the warning label, of course, on the product. But right now, a lot of those pet milk people are marketing it in quotations, pet milk. So those quotations mean something. And we just want to protect our industry here in Georgia and see what we can do to maybe provide market opportunities for our smaller guys.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And this handout you brought
Yeah.
is very good. I hope members of my committee will take that and look at it. Really does a great job
Thank you.
framing where we are and where we might, your organization might like to see us go. So thank you for that. You do have several questions. Representative Chairman Jasper.
Yes, sir. Thank you, ma'am. And your handout is very informative. Just got a question on, most of the pet milk, as you described it, is goat milk that's sold in the market, especially in the small areas, really in the competitor with the cow milk. And so what's your thoughts on, I guess in reading this real quickly, pet raw milk sales in Georgia should end on page 3. So limiting, I guess that you want to cut out the raw milk sales of goat milk. Is that?
Well, I can't speak on the goat industry because they are not members of Georgia Milk Producers. We do not think that we can do both. That if you are going to allow the pet license, food license, that it will it won't measure up to what we are asking for as far as regulations go.